Emmerdale tease that a harrowing twist of fate has left Paddy Kirk grappling with demons he never imagined he would face. The once composed and ever-reliable vet is now teetering on the edge of professional ruin, his life shaken by a sudden encounter with death and an unexpected aftermath that not only jeopardizes his livelihood, but also his identity. It began on a bitterly cold morning. Paddy, worn from a restless night, decided to take the long route through the village outskirts to clear his head. He had been feeling restless, agitated without knowing why, a disquiet he chalked up to fatigue. Passing Celia's farm, he noticed something strange, a sheep limping in the frostbitten field, its side heaving unnaturally. Instinct overtook caution. Paddy pulled over and climbed the fence, trudging across the uneven ground. The sheep bleated, its leg at an odd angle. As he knelt to examine the wound, a blur of motion caught him off guard. Celia's sheepdog, fiercely territorial and mistaking Paddy for a threat, lunged. The teeth sank deep into his arm before he could react. The pain was searing, immediate. Everything spiraled from there. Emergency surgery followed. Paddy survived, but something inside him changed. Physically, he would recover. Psychologically, the wound went deeper. At first, Paddy dismissed his unease. The stitches itched. He told himself the lingering anxiety was just shock. But as days turned into weeks, he realized he was no longer the man who had confidently approached snarling Rottweilers or comforted nervous terriers before surgery. The moment that forced him to confront the truth came during a routine visit to the market. A small dog barked in the distance. Paddy froze, breath catching in his throat, heart racing as if he were back in that frozen field with his arm locked in the dog's jaws. He tried to laugh it off when Rona noticed the paleness in his face. She urged him to take some time off, to step away from the clinic, but Paddy recoiled at the idea. "I'm fine," he insisted. "Just tired. Nothing I can't handle." But it wasn't true. He was unraveling. Still, he couldn't admit it. Especially not to Mandy. Paddy had always found solace in her understanding, her warmth, and their complicated but enduring bond. Yet he couldn't bring himself to speak the words that haunted him. So, when Mandy asked if he felt up to handling the clinic solo for the day, he nodded with forced conviction, swallowing the rising dread. The morning passed uneventfully. Paperwork. A cat with an upset stomach. A rabbit with a limp. But just before lunch, a client arrived cradling a massive German shepherd, injured but growling. The dog's eyes locked on Paddy, and all his senses screamed danger. The panic was swift, all-consuming. Paddy couldn't move. His hands shook. He couldn't even summon the words to explain. The receptionist took over, and the client left, puzzled and concerned. That afternoon, Paddy shut the clinic doors early. He sat alone in the break room, hands pressed to his temples. Shame washed over him. He felt like a fraud, a coward. It was in the quiet afterward, the sterile scent of antiseptic clinging to his clothes, that he finally picked up the phone and called to cancel his next shift. Then, after a long pause, he called Mandy. He told her everything. The panic attacks. The dreams. The smell of wet fur triggering nausea. The shame. To her credit, Mandy didn't react with pity. She listened. Really listened. And then she made a suggestion, exposure therapy, gentle and slow. She'd heard of a calm, friendly retriever named Chip owned by a friend who ran a local training center. He's basically a four-legged teddy bear, she said. Let's try. No pressure. So they did. Paddy met Chip on a sunny afternoon in the training center garden. The dog sat obediently beside its handler, wagging its tail. Paddy stayed a good 10 feet away, arms crossed, breathing shallow. Let him come to you, the trainer said gently. Chip ambled over, slow and calm. Paddy didn't flinch, but his fists were clenched tight. The dog stopped a few feet away, lay down, and rolled onto his back. He's showing trust, Mandy said softly. He's saying, I'm safe. Paddy nodded, trying to believe it. The sessions continued over the next week. Chip remained gentle, patient. Paddy made slow progress. He could stand closer, offer a hand to sniff, even brush the dog's back once. But it was far from a cure. Then came the setback. One afternoon, as they were finishing a session, another dog from the training center escaped its leash. A loud, hyper-border collie, it charged toward Paddy, barking frantically. The sudden motion and noise shattered his fragile calm. He stumbled back, fell hard onto the ground, arms up in defense. Chip barked in response, startled by the commotion. Though neither dog touched him, Paddy curled into himself, shaking uncontrollably. It took an hour before he could speak again. The guilt returned, doubled. He told Mandy he didn't think he could do it. That maybe he wasn't meant to be a vet anymore. That maybe what he had feared had come true, the attack had broken something in him permanently. But Mandy didn't let go. She reached for his hand and simply said, then we try again. And again. As many times as it takes. You don't have to do this alone, Paddy. And for the first time since the attack, he cried. Not from fear. But from relief. Recovery, as Paddy soon discovered, was neither swift nor linear. Each step forward seemed shadowed by setbacks, and though Mandy's support was unwavering, the fear inside him remained potent, a quiet storm that flared without warning. Mandy, observant as ever, began adjusting their routine. Instead of just exposure with Chip, she proposed involving other trusted faces in Paddy's recovery. Rona, still concerned after seeing his reaction at the market, stepped in. Despite the strain their past once brought, Rona's compassion hadn't waned. Together, they developed a staggered reintroduction plan for Paddy at the clinic, no dogs at first, only desk work, followed by controlled environments with small, calm breeds under supervision. Still, the clinic's walls whispered reminders of his failures. One afternoon, during a routine inventory, a customer arrived unexpectedly, cradling a Pomeranian. Though the dog was docile, its presence stiffened Paddy's back, heart racing as he politely excused himself. Back in the stockroom, he counted 4 bags with trembling fingers. Mandy found him minutes later. She said nothing, just sat beside him in the silence. It was becoming a ritual, quiet understanding in place of judgment. One evening over tea, Mandy suggested they go back to Celia's farm. It was a bold idea, confront the place it all began. Paddy recoiled at first, but after days of contemplation, he agreed. The journey there was quiet. The landscape unchanged. Same crooked gate, same wind-whipped fields. Celia, guilt-ridden since the attack, greeted them with cautious warmth. She had rehomed the dog. I couldn't keep him, she admitted. Not after what happened. But I'm sorry, Paddy. I truly am. Paddy stood in the very field where his world had shifted. Snow no longer covered the earth, but a chill clung to the memory. He didn't speak. Instead, he crouched beside a new lamb grazing, gently resting a hand on its back. His breath came easier than he expected. Mandy, watching from a distance, knew this was more than symbolic. It was necessary. Days passed, and a pattern of stability began to emerge. Chip's visits continued, and Paddy even began helping Rona organize patient files and assist in surgeries for animals other than dogs. His hands steadied around cats, guinea pigs, even a ferret. His sense of purpose crept back. But the true test came unexpectedly. A local family rushed into the clinic with their injured Labrador, blood matting its fur, a car accident victim. Rona was out on a home visit, and the trainee was too panicked to lead. Paddy froze when the door burst open, but something inside him shifted. The desperation in the family's voice, the lab's whimpering pain, it ignited a familiar instinct. He moved forward. He didn't think, just acted. With Mandy's help, they got the dog onto the examination table. Paddy's hands hovered, then made contact. No fear, only focus. He stabilized the dog's breathing, instructed the assistant with precision, stitched a deep gash, and administered fluids. By the time Rona returned, the crisis was under control. It wasn't triumph he felt, but something quieter, confidence, fragile but real. That night, over dinner, Mandy lit a candle between them. Paddy laughed softly. "What's the occasion?" "You," she replied. "You came back to us today. To yourself." He couldn't deny it. The episode had proven something vital. His fear didn't define him. It lived within him, yes, but so did courage. Still, questions lingered. Could he return to full-time veterinary work? Would every encounter with a dog feel like a test? Would he ever truly feel normal again? They both knew there'd be more challenges. But Mandy also proposed a solution, a hybrid role. Consulting, desk supervision, mentoring new vet students. Roles that would still allow him to serve animals and the clinic without constant exposure to triggers. Rona agreed to trial it. And slowly, the community began seeing the old Paddy resurface. At a local fair organized weeks later, Chip was one of the mascots. Children giggled as they petted the golden retriever. Paddy watched from a distance, then approached with measured steps. He knelt, met Chip's eyes, and scratched behind the ears. The dog leaned in, licking his hand. "Thank you," Paddy whispered. Nearby, Celia stood with a basket of preserves, catching his eye. She offered a small wave. He returned it. No words needed. There was forgiveness. But not all wounds were visible. That night, Paddy sat alone on his porch. The moon lit the empty fields. Mandy joined him minutes later, handing him a cup of tea. "You okay?" she asked. "No," he said. "But I think I will be." The trauma would never fully vanish. It would echo at odd hours, creep into dreams. But it had lost its grip. Paddy had found his footing not by returning to who he was, but by embracing who he'd become, a man not defined by fear, but by the quiet strength of facing it. And as Emmerdale watched, life moved forward. Not perfectly. But honestly. The vet had returned. Different. But whole.